All right, thank you, Peter. Welcome everyone to our last scheduled ARPA workshop with the council. We had scheduled a series of these so that we could discuss our thoughts publicly and openly, allowing public comment, but also not a venue for requesting funds. We're simply here to discuss the process, how we want to move forward. And I'll just offer a quick summary for everyone here to kind of hear where we've left off in these past few meetings that we've had. We've had a number of items come up that we discussed were viable options for providing some funding. We started a new web page on the town website that has some of the resources relating to ARPA funds, including how we can use these funds. We also are going to be posting, as we discussed in the last meeting, a section for, thank you, and the manager just included a link to that page on our website in the chat. We're also going to have a section on the website and on Facebook that will allow the public to submit comment on any issue that they feel needs to be funded. It doesn't have to pertain to ARPA, of course, but it would provide an option for the public to provide that feedback to us. The last meeting that we had, we discussed the state of the bridge going out to Iron Bridge Road, that area, and its current state, which basically is not very good. Fire truck can't access the road from that point, and in need of serious repair. Mr. Manager, did you hear back from that yet? I know you had reached out to, I think it was Marcia, you said, with Oliver.
Mandy. Close. So yes, I've been in conversation with Mandy Oliver from Oliver Associates, who handle those types of projects for us. She is currently waiting to hear back from the vendor on the cost of those culverts right now. She said we can expect an increase in the cost of that from the original estimate. And in terms of, or regarding the RFP that we would like to put out for that bridge, she has noted that we need to wait for the weather to clear up to better conditions so that we can have the site properly surveyed, so that they can have the right information to put on the bid to get sent out to contractors. So we are just a little ways out from being able to put that project out to bid and to have the number, the cost for the actual culvert itself. But the conversation is in progress, so we're just waiting on some answers.
Well, thank you, Mr. Manager. And another update on that you had also sent us is that those funds were used, or the funds that we had gotten to pay for 50% of the project were state funds. They were not federal funds, meaning we will be able to match that with these ARPA funds.
Correct.
That was one of the pending items that we were to discuss tonight.
Correct. And Jane and myself and Mary Alice, and I believe Council Gray had sat through an MMA ARPA fund workshop yesterday, and there was specific mention in one of the sections, in improvements. It specifically noted culverts in one of the sections. So I feel pretty confident in spending on that purpose.
Thank you. And thank you to those who sat through that MMA training on that. Much appreciated. It's a great help to the town to have that information. Some of the items that we also discussed more recently and in the past has been offering $20,000 or $25,000 to the fire department, and also $45,000 to mobilize Katahdin, which we had discussed budget season and a few times since then. Collectively, if all three of those items were to be pulled out of the ARPA funds that would basically be the total amount that we've been awarded for this year. But that's where the conversation's been up till now. I'll first go to the council to see if there's any more discussion on these, any thoughts. Obviously, any action that we take will have to be in a regular council meeting. And then after we discuss that, I'll go to the public if there's any comment. Any council comment? Ador?
Yeah, just first and foremost, the opportunity to be able to use the or a portion of the ARPA funds to offset the match that would be needed to get the bridge going out to the Iron Bridge Road repaired. That's to me, that's a no-brainer, because it would just, it's free money to be able to go ahead and do a valuable repair that needs to be done on the infrastructure of the community. After that, after it's determined what the cost is going to be, after Mandy Oliver and her group get a chance to go ahead and go out there and do a cost analysis of what it's going to cost to replace that culvert and such, then I think it would be better to determine what monies might be left to be able to be divided up to be used with other groups or organizations. But I would say first and foremost, that bridge needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Ador. Any other council comment? I would say that I agree with that as well, Mike. We had obviously discussed the safety issue of that building, the bridge as well in the last meeting. And as soon as we get, Peter, do you know when exactly they'll be able to come look at the bridge and have that number? I'm assuming it's just after the snow melts, basically.
Yeah, basically. She didn't give me an exact time frame, but just said when weather conditions were more attractive for doing that work. So I would say we're probably a month or two away from having that done.
Is everyone here generally in agreement with waiting to get those numbers back, and with the intent, at least for now, to use the ARPA funds to go towards the bridge?
I'd be hesitant about making any leaning to what we're going to do as a council. We're just presenting everything so it's on the table.
Can I ask about numbers? Steve, where'd you go? Steve, can I ask what the numbers are when you say you're going to spend the money for the bridge and the leftover money goes to other people? How much are we talking?
Well, we were awarded our half portion, which is around 211,000 or 220,000, 220,000 roughly.
And what's the bridge cost?
Well, that's what we're talking about right now, is that they have to go look specifically at what damage there is, how much that'll cost. It was estimated before to be somewhere around 300,000 total. And we were awarded a grant through Oliver and Associates, who applied on our behalf to pay for roughly half of that.
And the
So
bridge actually fits into the criteria for the COVID money?
yes.
Really? Okay, so. Okay, I don't agree with that, but that's just me. There are a lot of places here in town that were very, very adversely affected by COVID, the recovery community being one of them. And I don't know that the priority should be a bridge when there's got to be other funding for that. There is no other funding for like breaking the cycle or here or the Wabanaki, and there's other causes. So I don't know that I would think it was okay to give 2/3 to the bridge and everybody else fights over the, what's left. I don't see the, I guess, justice in that. I don't see the justice in that. It sounds unjust to me.
Well, I would like to just offer the idea, though, these funds were not originally awarded to be just handed out to community organizations. These, these funds were given to municipalities for municipal functions generally, and for the issues that had occurred since COVID. We have the ability to, as other governmental organizations do, to cooperate with nonprofits and other community organizations if they so choose. But in the grand scheme of things, we're awarded a very small amount of money. We're
Oh,
only
yeah.
awarded $220,000 the first year, and then the same the second. Whereas counties and the state and others have, tens of millions, if not more. So just, I would hope that you'd keep in mind, our position. We have municipal needs. And I definitely invite you to look back at our recorded meetings so that you can get some context for kind of how we've arrived to this point. It's all on our YouTube page, and you can review that anytime.
Okay, thank you.
But thank you for your comment.
Mr. Chairman, can I piggyback off you for a second?
Please.
You mentioned COVID and it being issues that happened during COVID, and this is a great example. This is something that has been neglected. Obviously, with the quote we got, that is not guaranteed anymore due to the rising cost. And we came to the realization, thanks to Mr. Malcolm, that getting a fire truck over that bridge is now an issue, which is a huge safety concern. So I think it is very pertinent that we consider this as an option due to the reason that getting a fire truck over that bridge is now a safety concern. There are people that live across that way. So we need to take them into consideration as well when we're using this money. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bragdon. Susan D'Alessandro, your hand's up, and then Mr. Manager.
Excuse me, I can't help but look at the 800-pound skeleton that's in our closet. And that has to do with public health issues, which is supposed to be a very high priority in this COVID money. And I have to say, it's been very frustrating. I've been attending just about every county commissioner's meeting and most of the meetings that the town has. And what I see happening, excuse me, what I see happening is there, like somebody just said today, there's easy money. Yep, that's what it's being looked at as, easy money. And it's being grabbed at for physical infrastructure items. And I fail to see how COVID affected that bridge. That bridge did not get that way in the last 2 years. It's been getting that way for a long time. And just like the county commissioners meeting, now it's like a public emergency because the elevator, the 37-year-old elevator in the jail, it has to be fixed like yesterday. And that's what, to me, this all boils down to, is easy money. And meanwhile, the people of our community continually are put in the last place. The people that have substance use issues and mental health issues. I had a friend who unfortunately had to go to the emergency room on Sunday, and excuse me, there was only, she got the only bed left because the other beds were all taken up with psych patients. Well, she had to go back to the emergency room today, and those same psych patients are still there. And Acadia has like a 6-month waiting list. Do you know what it does to a person to sit in a little room about the size of your bathroom for 5 days on end with nothing? How can we ignore these people? And, I've heard it said at the county commissioners meeting that, well, we don't think these nonprofits have, the administrative capabilities to handle this money. Oh, really? But they want to spend it on building a new jail. Maine alone has the highest incarceration rate of anywhere in the country. And the crime rate in the state of Maine has gone down, and it balances with Vermont. for the amount of crime. And this whole subject, it's like, I just don't understand how we can ignore this. And, you know, you've got people like, yes, peer-to-peer and breaking the cycle, and they've been, you know, shedding an inch of their hide trying to deal with this problem alone. And I really fail to see how we can totally ignore, like I said, the 800-pound skeleton in the closet. It isn't an 800-pound gorilla because you can see a gorilla. Even for our, you know, recently being told at one of these meetings that, you know, oh, we don't have homeless people here. Really? Really? So, you know, the more we want to ignore the 800-pound skeleton, the worse it's going to continue to get. And I hesitate to say negative stuff because I try to be a good ambassador for the good things that happen in this town, of which there are many. But at the same time, I can't sit by any longer and watch what's going on and the numbers going up. And that's the other thing, the statistics are being hidden. I spent the better part of the last year trying to get statistics on the overdose situation in our town. And although you can get it by the county, you can't get it by breaking it down to the town. And the excuse is used that it's because of privacy reasons. Really? But those people are plastered all over the front page of the newspaper with their picture and everything else. But to get good information to be able to bring to boards like you to demonstrate the problem that we're dealing with, it blows my mind. And I just, sorry, I feel so passionate about this. And I am really upset to think that that bridge did not happen overnight. There's rescue fund money, not rescue fund, there's infrastructure money for that bridge. And, you know, when people try to pass the buck down the road, you know, oh, the opioid settlement. Well, I've dug into the opioid settlement, and that money is being divided up over 18 years. And then there's all kinds of ifs, ands, and buts. So will it help the opioid situation? I guess it's better than not having any, but will it help it in a manageable way? And, you know, talk to the police department and ask them what they've been dealing with mental health issues and substance use in this town. And I've watched the reports, and there's like more than 40, almost 45% consistently applies to Millinocket. And I just can't understand how it's not being considered in this once in a lifetime money that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate your passion and your interest in this subject. And I think we all share that passion and interest as well in solving these problems. And I would hope that, you know, just because we're discussing other issues and other items doesn't mean that we're ignoring this issue. I understand that your experience with the county and perhaps other organizations has caused you to feel very upset about this, and I share that frustration with you. I certainly welcome, as I do any public member, and I know the council does too, any suggestions on how we can use this very limited amount of funding that we have. You know, it is very limited for the municipality. The county and the state and even other nonprofits receive tremendous amounts of money, far beyond what we have gotten ourselves. I'll have Councilor Prey respond, and I know your hand's up earlier, Mr. Manager. I'll get to you in a second. Councilor Prey.
Yeah, I was going to say, and that's kind of what I said when referencing trying to poll the members as to where we stood on any specific project at this time. The purpose of these is to hear ideas and concepts, and then when we go into council meeting, have a fuller discussion of those things that are being proposed. I will say this because I've said it a number of times before. Putting this whole thing into perspective, we're getting money. We've gotten monies, and we'll get one more round of monies of which we'll have 5 years to spend it. In a previous meeting in the council, I said I had concerns about establishing any type of program that would require ongoing funding beyond what we're going to be capable of providing services. I've also said this as well as in reference to, I'm willing to address local issues in reference to some of the subject matters here, but the overall problem needs to be solved at the state level. We do not have a Millinocket Department of Mental Health. We do not have a Millinocket Department of drug treatment or anything else. And I think there needs to be more pressure. If we relieve the state of that responsibility, they're going to put it on the municipalities, and the mill rate's going to go right back up sky high because it's going to take a lot of money to solve a lot of these problems. Help them on a marginal area. I'm all for that, but I cannot see us taking this money and missing the overall scope. As I had asked the fire chief and health officer before, make sure he put something in, and since we've got 5 years to spend it, maybe we ought to have a 5-year budget of PPE for all the departments in case there's another pandemic and or other situations. I don't want to see us say, okay, we're going to spend this much this year and next year and let something like that go where we don't have somewhat of an ongoing program, at least through that time period the money is available to us to spend. In reference to and we've raised the question before of competing funds, infrastructure monies and so forth. One of the reasons we were looking to get a CID person in is to look at the various grant monies and applications for it. I read several national newsletters daily on a variety of funding sources out there and federal monies that are coming down the pike, excuse me, or are already out there. I don't know if we've made applications for them. I don't know if we qualify for them, but that's something that addressing some of these larger ongoing problems. So let's look at what's in front of us, the first year allocation of funds. And when we go into that public meeting in the council, we'll present all of these things that have been presented, such as the bridge, such as what some of the more social organizations are advocating. But I have to say to everybody, I have had a number of conversations on the street of people who are not participating in these and wanting to know how we're spending it. They've already heard we've spent some of it. And a lot of people, and I appreciate the concerns that Susan raises and others in reference to these. When I first went to legislature in 75, I was on the Health and Institutional Service Committee. We were dealing with these same problems, and they do need to be addressed, but I think it's the state that's got to address them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Prey. And just responding to Susan, any other council comments on that? Councilor Bragdon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bouncing off what Councilor Prey said, I couldn't said it better myself. I worked directly with psychiatric patients in Bangor, and I know the extent of what you're talking about. We had patients that lasted 6 months to a year that could not find a place to stay. But as Councilor Prey put it, we don't have the resources to build that here right now. And I understand the frustration and I understand the concern. And we do have another round of monies that is coming that we can talk further about this, but we don't have the resources right now to fight that situation. I definitely agree we should help out in a way we can, but I don't see handling it overnight. Like you said, one of the biggest things you said was it doesn't happen overnight, and a solution for this is not going to come overnight. That is a very, very big issue that spreads the entire state. I just read your comment. I'm not talking about building Acadia here. I'm talking about building local resources. And I understand that, but we have things that we also have to take into consideration as well. And as Councilor Prey put out, that is why we're here talking about this now. So any recommendation can come forth. We're not setting anything in stone. So I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bragdon. And Susan, I'll just piggyback off that as well. If you have a plan and you feel that we have the capacity to fund it, please send it to us. We are certainly a very open group I feel that, what has been presented to us so far are, a much larger, broader perspective that is really difficult to refine into an actionable plan. As I said, we have $220,000 this year, and once again, after that, if you have a plan that you feel can be funded reasonably within that budget, understanding there are other issues in town as well that we would like to address, and it's not something that would require ongoing funding from the town, because that's something we just cannot do. Please present that to us. We are a very open group. There are other ways that we can support as well. We can advocate, as a town, for some of these issues. In the past, we've sent letters from the council on behalf of our community to representatives, to to other organizations or other people to hear our overall views on an issue. If we as a council are interested in supporting some of these specific causes or plans that you may have that we may not be able to fund ourselves, we can still help advocate for them, by other means. So, please present what you have in mind. Councillor Danforth.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank both Michelle and Susan for continuing to do that, to advocate and keep this topic front and center. I'm here just listening, like Councilor Prey had said, and you had just said, Mr. Chairman, that's what this meeting is about. I haven't made any decisions. We're not making any decisions. So I want everything to stay front and center. And certainly, if you do have some suggestions on some funding, we don't have any quick solutions, but I want to hear them. So my ears are still open, and I appreciate you speaking today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Danforth. Michelle, I see your hand up. Peter still is yet to speak. I wanted to see if there are any other council.
Okay.
Okay, yes, please wait though. I was going to see if there's any other council response to Susan, and then I'm going to go to Peter, and after that I'll go to you. Any other council response to Susan? Michael Madore?
And when I mentioned going ahead and getting the bridge repaired, getting the infrastructure done for the town, those people who live out in that area who, for whatever reason now, can't necessarily depend on a fire truck being able to come across that bridge at the time of emergency, I think that is fairly significant. But my understanding is that the cost of doing that bridge, between what we've already gotten as far as money from grant money or bond money from the state and what we're going to put in for a match out of the ARPA funds, would still leave a significant amount of money left over for other projects, other organizations, other groups. So it's not like we're going to take the entire amount of money for this year and next year and put it into one project out, one bridge. So there will be opportunity, but I think when I mentioned it, I'm trying to prioritize, and certainly getting that bridge done would be, to me, would be project one. And then, of course, like I say, there should be, if my numbers aren't too wrong, there should be a significant amount of money in the terms of about $80,000 or $90,000 left over from the original money to go ahead and look at other projects or other requests. So it's not like it's draining everything to do one thing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Madore. Any other council response to Susan? Okay, Mr. Manager, you had your hand up.
I just wanted to add to some of the thought process behind bringing that project up in this discussion, which is exactly just that, a discussion where we've been sharing ideas and talking about the strategy of this funding. This is the third Thursday we've been doing this at 5 o'clock. The project that we're talking about with the bridge at the end of Penobscot Avenue going into Iron Bridge Road has been posted to a limit where, we're pushing it with public work trucks at the moment, plowing, things like that. We can't take a fire truck over it. We understand that. The cost estimate for that project in the very beginning of 2020 was $300,000. As we know, everything has skyrocketed since then. Our last CDBG bid came back at double the initial budget. The grant funding that we were awarded to cover half of that project, we were awarded $150,000. That needs to be spent by the end of this year. Excuse me. If we don't spend that on the project, we lose that funding. And then the entirety of that cost for replacement of that culvert and that bridge, which at that point is $300,000 off the original estimate, factoring in the effects of COVID and the pandemic on the supply chain and the cost of doing work. We're looking at the possibility of a cost that's substantially more than $300,000. And that is a necessary replacement. We need to do it. The funding from that would then get put on the backs of the taxpayers of Millinocket. The cost of it right now is pretty close to 2 mils. When you're looking at your property taxes. So I really just wanted to reiterate, as I had described in previous meetings on this topic, I wanted to reiterate some of those items so that everyone here understood the impact and the potential impact on property taxes in our town. Happy to answer any questions on that, but I just wanted to add some further clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Michelle, you have your hand up?
Actually, it's Charlie who wants to speak.
Hello, I'm sure everybody recognizes me, so I won't have to identify myself too much. I think the conversation is about community. This money is designated to community. And looking at the overall issues of our community, I think, we have gunfights in the street. We have homeless people. We have a alcohol and drug situation in our within our community. There are some people in this community that are laying some groundwork for fighting these issues, bringing this issue to the forefront. And any monies that are, I'll call them seed monies, to support these groups that I've been watching for the last couple of years. They have been putting their hearts and souls into building back our communities. And any help during this COVID epidemic, but along with this COVID epidemic, we've had an opiate epidemic that's killing our children. And any seed money that we can, as a community, give these groups, I believe will get paid back tenfold. I've been watching the settlements for the opiate epidemic, and the Sackler family just conceded today another $2 billion. Other drug companies in the past week have conceded another $26 billion. So that right there is $32 billion that is going to be going to rural America, which includes Millinocket, and it's going to be going to indigenous peoples for their part in this recovery that we're all hoping for. Again, I think any money that we can seed to these social groups, to these community groups, will bring back returns in dollars and cents. And I really believe we could be supporting these people. Not to say that a bridge is not a bad idea. Yeah, I'm sure there's other funds sources for construction. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to put seed money into something that could grow into something really good. Just my thoughts on the subject. I don't envy any of your jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie, for your comments, and also thank you to all the organizations that have obviously done a lot of work in this area. We've met quite a handful of you in council meetings before, and certainly appreciate all of the efforts that have been made up until now. And I think I speak for the whole council when I say that we care very deeply about this issue. And I hope that, I hope that you also understand that asking for us to help solve this problem does not necessarily translate into a plan that we can actually act on. To say that you would like seed money is a great idea. How much are you asking for? What organization would use that? Where would that money be going? How would it help, grow the cause, grow the organization to help deal with that issue? Obviously, this is, as I've, mentioned before, this is not the format to be requesting funds specifically, but send us an email. Send the manager an email. It's manager@millnocket.org if you have any thoughts on exactly what we could do here. I think we all completely agree that this is a very big issue and we would like to be a part of solving it. We have very limited funds and we have not seen any plan or any request for funds, outside of these meetings. So please feel free to do so. Any other council responses to that comment? Mador?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, early on when we talked about some previous suggestions other than the bridge, and you'd mentioned 25,000 for the fire station, for PPE and other emergency equipment. And you mentioned 45,000 to go to, or had been suggested to go to mobilize Katahdin. And I assume that, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that basically to help the community and the people less fortunate and the homeless and all these things with food insecurity and things like that? So it's not, I think that the suggestion that that's there, it may not be the what they're looking for intervention for drug addiction or substance abuse, but it certainly is something that would help the community out and those less fortunate. And it's the fact that it was brought up early and it has been suggested early shows that this council does have an eye to helping those in the community who are less fortunate, who need assistance other than with substance abuse, or maybe even part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mador. Councilor Bragdon?
Yeah, just bouncing off Mador, the meetings that led up to us doing the ARPA meetings, the council meetings, that is, when we decided that we should do ARPA meetings as a separate thing than the council meetings, that was a huge topic that we had talked about was, mental health. Councilor Danforth had brought it up and we made a list of everything that we wanted to do, which was what initiated doing the ARPA workshops. Those topics were definitely taken into consideration. But as Chairman Galib stated, no one has submitted a plan. And we've asked multiple times, if anybody wants anything, or has a suggestion, send us an email, lay out a plan and everything. And none of that has been done. And, we are still taking into consideration that list that we first made. And that topic is definitely on that list. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bragdon. Any other council comment? Councilor Prey?
Yes. we have talked about rather than not to have an application process, and that got put off. So I can't fault anybody for not submitting anything uh, other than other than the presentations here. And I obviously would be interested in how, if we allocated monies to these programs, how they would be spent, how they would be perceived to be able to help solve or resolve the problem, or at least alleviate the problem. And again, as I said earlier, as to how it would impact the people of Millinocket. We've had a number of organizations that represent more than just Millinocket have come and asked Millinocket for money. And on a couple of occasions, I've asked them if they've gone to other towns, and they haven't. So if we're serving local people, I'm for utilizing this opera funds to some degree to help local people. I don't know what the dollar figure will be when we throw everything on the table. I suspect the first couple of times we go through it, we're probably going to have spent maybe 2 to 3 times what's available, and we're going to have to slowly pare back until we come into something that's agreeable. But I think we should, similar to the county process of having people lay out, as has been suggested here, what a proposal, what you're looking for money, and what the accomplishment of that money would be. Obviously, the bridge, we understand that it would be it's matching funds to get additional funds to try to fix the bridge. That's fairly simple, and obviously we're waiting for additional information as to how much what impact that would be and how much it is. But that's what we really need, is the information as to how this money will really attempt to address an issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Prey. Councilor Pelletier.
Yeah, I have maybe Charlie can help it on this one, but I've been sitting on that, listening in on some of the county meetings, but not the commission itself. And I think it was Susan that mentioned they're talking about building a jail. Is that so? Because what I've sat in, all the input that we've had to the county on these other groups has been 80% substance abuse disorder and mental health monies for services as well as for housing. And as far as I know, out of that 29 point something million, like 28 million is left for, I would hope, the direction that the input that these groups have been giving them. So do you have any insight as to what the commission is having on their wish list there?
I haven't been on all of them. I've been on several of them, and they're also receiving presentations. I was there when they talked about the necessity of fixing fixing the elevator in the jail. That jail system was built in 1860s or 1880s. Obviously, it's been retrofitted several times, and they do have a problem. We're running into trouble with the state because the jail doesn't meet the state standards. The Commissioner of Corrections on a couple of occasions have threatened to stop funding the share of money that they get from the state to Penobscot County because they're overcrowded. And they're licensed for something like 180 inmates, and they've been running around 240 inmates. And they've been boarding out under Sheriff Morton. They've gone to deferring a lot of people in their jail time. But the question going back to what existed before the pandemic was they cannot provide the services and stuff in an 1870 facility that didn't have mental health 150 years ago. Didn't have alcohol treatment and so forth. And there needs to be an expansion from the state services. When I went down to the counties, they were getting $12 million a year from the state annually. Since the previous administration came in, it froze it at that for 8 years. We got them up to 18 million, and it grows. They make a request every year and try to get some additional monies. But that's just for boarding the inmates that are being put in. I'm guesstimating here, but it's probably 85% of the people in the county jail are waiting to go to trial to find out if they need to be sentenced to jail.
Mhm.
Probably 95% of them, if they're found guilty, it's time served. So we're really holding these people that haven't even gone through the criminal process. And of course, the pandemic made a lot of that worse because the court system isn't hearing all the cases. A new jail is a separate issue of the ARPA funds. The resolution of that. Obviously, they presented the question about fixing the elevator, and it was explained they do have a
Yeah.
capital improvement funds, but I'm going to let that go at that point.
It was my understanding that they had 750,000 to $1.25 million earmarked for that repair that they need immediately out of the ARPA funds. And they, from the commissioner that I heard from, didn't allude to any more of the 29 point something million for jail work. Other than that, what they've already identified as, I suppose, emergency repair.
That's the
So I was
idea that was
curious.
presented to them.
So if that's not the way they go and they want to use part of this 28 million for the bigger jail issue, which I don't think it would be correct given all the input they've had, but just what kind of money are we talking about? Building a brand new jail? Or?
No, they're not talking about using the ARPA funds to build the jail, and it will have to go out to a bond question for the county to build a new facility. And they found they bought the YMCA building, thought that they could across the street from the jail, thinking they could expand over into that, but they found out they can't do that. If you know how the jail sits, kind of going down that hill behind the courthouse, it's not necessarily an ideal place to expand on the facility that they've got there.
So
I would request any further conversation on the county
Yeah.
and the jail be discussed after this meeting.
Thank
Was
you.
there any other point you wanted to make, Louis?
well, just that the town should petition the county in support of these local organizations that need help, given that the bulk of their 28 million should go to substance use disorder and mental health projects.
Thank you, Councilor Pelletier. I see your hand up, Matt. I just wanted to respond to some of these chats here and just clear up some confusion. It seems that some are confused at the process that we've been taking in these workshops. I just want to reiterate. Since Councilor Jackson has been on the council back in September, October, we started requesting input from the community on how these ARPA funds could be used. That hasn't changed. We've continued that request. During the meetings, however, we did not open it up for requests from the public. Obviously, that could open up a long line of people that could be asking for funds. We wanted to mostly discuss the process of how we wanted to move forward with it. So I just wanted to clear that up. So Diana, I see your chat there of your interest in submitting a proposal. I know that you had already done that for the council. Perhaps when we're getting closer to making a decision, you can resend that information to us, or we might ask you at that point to present again. But we have not changed our tone since the end of last year, which is please, community members, organizations, submit your comments and your thoughts on how we should be using these funds to us. It was just not to take place during these workshop meetings as we were discussing process. Councilor Bragdon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to comment on another comment that was made. I don't know if Councilor Danforth wants to comment on something that's already been stated, and I'll yield to her if she does.
Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and respond then. So I want to respond to Councilor Pelletier when you mentioned that perhaps we should petition the county for some funds to work on substance abuse, mental health issues in our community. And I think it goes back to in the chat, Susan D'Alessandro's mentioned that another town, our neighboring town, was looking to go for some funds for a social worker to work with police. So that is something that was brought up for us to do like a tri-town effort to go after some of the county funds together as a tri-town to work with our police department for a social worker-like position, some sort of advocate, community advocate, or social worker. We need to figure out what that would look like, some sort of counselor. Yeah, we would have to define what that would look like, but that's exactly how we need to be thinking. What can we go after some of these county funds for some of these issues where they have that larger sum of money? So hopefully that helps it. But also if that's not the route to go, maybe we need to look at using some of our local municipal funds to fund that position, because that is so important. So I wouldn't want to take that off the table either. If we don't go after county funds, maybe we need to look to see if they're willing to pool some of their local funds with our local funds to get this position in place, the social worker in place. So.
Thank you, Councillor Danforth. Councillor Bragdon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Responding to the comment that Susan had made, one minute you say this is a discussion, and the next minute you say you didn't see any proposals, very contradictory. That's not contradictory. This is a discussion. We heard your complaint and your recommendations. Those have been taken to heart. That hasn't changed the purpose of these discussions. However, as Chairman Glee pointed out, since Councillor Jackson was on, we have had the same process and we've held steady to it since that discussion in September. None of that has changed, and this is still a discussion. Your comments are well heard, and I have a list going right now on my desk. They are being heard, and I don't want you to feel like none of us are ignoring you. We definitely hear what you're saying, but I feel like the part that I'm trying to grasp that's extremely hard for me to grasp is we're one town, and a pool of many other towns in the Penobscot County, and this is a huge state issue that we as a town cannot solve by ourselves. And I agree with petitioning the state. I agree with petitioning the county. Going forth and trying things to help forth. I have no problem with that. But I feel like on a town level, we're trying to handle a very, very large fish in a very, very small pond. But that being said, I want you to know that your voice is being heard. We definitely hear what you're saying. To the second part that Councillor Danforth had made with the social worker, I'm okay with said proposition. The biggest thing that I'm concerned about is safety. I've heard many, many stories of social workers that have replaced police officers and gone to, for example, domestic abuse situations where the social worker has then been attacked, has been assaulted. I don't want a social worker to replace a police officer by any way, means, shape, or form. It's a huge safety concern, and I don't agree with it. But I definitely am in favor of having a social worker go to these places with a police officer and handling the situation together. That way, there is a police officer who has training that can handle the situation if it gets out of hand. That being said, I will cease. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bragdon. Any other council comment? I will reiterate some of the points in chat here, just in case people in the public at the recording can't see these. Susan D'Alessandro said the county is definitely using ARPA funds for the rehab of the jail. DOC has acted because of overcrowding. Overcrowding could be dealt with by not putting people in jail. Tri-Town area, Bangor in the county, there's almost $51 million. Watch how much gets used for these issues. Sandra Sullivan wrote, "My opinion, money for substance abuse and mental health should come from the state and county. There is a bridge in town that has severe safety concerns. We have matching funds that will run out at the end of the year. Money needs to go to replace that bridge. Our choice, either use the matching funds or pay for the entire bridge out of tax money, which means increased taxes." Thank you for your comments there. Any other comment from the council or the public?
Malcolm.
Tom Malcolm, sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to make sure that there's been a couple of things said tonight. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. The fire department is not asking for money.
Mhm.
Never through this whole thing have I asked for money for the fire department. your public health officer is the fire chief. That's just the way it is in Millinocket. I'm representing the public health of this community and the people that work for you. We had a very hard time through this whole pandemic with staff as far as trying to keep them protected. Last year at budget time, we talked about this. We talked exclusively about setting up a fund and having monies available. I'm near the end of my career. I've been here 37 years. It's getting to be the end. But I don't want to see us in the situation we've been in. I think we need to have money set aside to protect the people that make this community go. You've got some very dedicated, extremely dedicated staff, and we need to protect them at all costs. We're not talking a lot of money, but this is an area that's very concerning to me. I mean, we made it through. We did all right. We were able to beg, borrow, and steal some stuff, and got lucky with state grants. That stuff's all going away. Remember what this money that is being put out is for. It's for your community, to keep your community safe. I know I've dealt with the mental health problem in Millinocket my whole career, the alcohol problem in Millinocket my whole career, the mental health issues. These aren't new. And until the state steps up to this and actually does something, we're not going to cure that in our own community. That needs a lot bigger than just us. And I'm not advocating that we give all that money to public health, but I'm just initially I asked for $25,000. I'm still saying that we need to keep looking at that. And the bridge, the bridge is a big deal to me. Not being able to put a fire truck over that bridge is a big deal. Yeah, we can go the other way. There's two ways in there, but everything takes time. Sometimes you don't have that time. So thank you, and thank you for hearing my concerns.
Thank you, Chief Malcolm. Councilor Prey.
Just a quick comment. Tom misspoke. He hasn't stolen anything. He said he begged, borrowed, and stole. He hasn't stolen anything.
Thank you for that clarification, Councilor Prey. Any other council comments? All right, any other comments from the public? Okay.
I lied. I
oh,
do. I
Councilor
lied. I
Bragg,
do
go
want.
ahead.
I do want to comment. I lied to you. I'm sorry. Just agreeing with Mr. Malcolm. We don't know what's around the corner. We don't know what the future holds for Millinocket or in general. And I've advocated for this in the past, and I'm going to advocate for it again. An emergency fund is definitely necessary. Whether it be 25,000, I had said 50,000 would be better, but 25,000, if that's what he's asking for, I think that's a great start. This COVID may be ending, but we don't know what's around the corner. There could be a virus 30 years from now that our kids will experience, and this emergency fund could definitely come in handy. I feel like it's a necessity. It's something that was overlooked in the past. And I feel like Tom is right. It needs to be handled now rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bragdon. Any other councilor public comment? All right. Well, with that, just thank you everyone for your participation. Again, just reiterating, if you have any specific ideas or plans or thoughts, please email our manager@millinocket.org. He had to put that email address in the chat. And we're always open to and happy to hear from all of you and your thoughts. And with that, I'll say goodnight.
Good night.
Thank you. Take care.